This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is a live market review chat for Friday, February 3rd, 2023. Figured I would open up this chat because rather interesting what's going on. Potentially getting the confirmation of the trap closing. So much to talk about. I wanted to help people the best I could by just opening this up because I think a lot of people, I'm not sure what planet or if they got their trading license from Walmart or they're from, but again, people, the one-touch moves do not happen on the regular. There's retest, chop, should always be a part of your game. The one-touch moves is a day trading mindset that doesn't apply to swing trading. It is not easy, and you just got to be prepared. You got to layer in. You know, you can be wrong, you can be early, but when the traps close, the traps move quick in your favor. You get the rug pulls. So just kind of is what it is. Yeah, trading license from Walmart. I mean, I still don't understand sometimes where people ultimately, they look at day trading and they see retest on the 10-minute, the 5-minute, all this stuff. Then they go look at the daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And they're like, well, that chart, no, they can't play out the same way. And it's like, okay, the levels matter. No different. I mean, it's just taking it to a different time frame and not having instant gratification. I mean, it's literally that simple. Is it? I mean, I don't know. You try to explain it to people 1,000 times over, and they just don't get it. Because why the wiring? You guys have been around. You understand. The wiring is the hardest part of this. Instant gratification, always having to be right, not having stops, getting into a position where you don't define your loss, and next thing you know, you're just a scrambled egg brain. You're just like, I don't know what to do. It looks bullish, looks bearish, looks bullish, looks bearish. And then you forget about the evidence, the sentiment, the levels, getting through earnings, jobs, FOMC. You forget that what the Feds literally said, that they're not going to be looking to cut rates. Then you get the jobs number that confirms it. You get like a million things that go in favor. And it's just like all of a sudden your brain is, meh, I can't do it. I can't listen to my consciousness. I can't stick to my plans. It's like, I'm going to start moving my targets up. I think now I'm going to wait for 430 on the SPY, or I'm going to wait for gold to get to 2000, or you know what I mean? Like, that's what they do with the highs and the lows. They get you to believe that the certainty of the next trend is what? The one that it's in. Right? That's the problem here. Again, if you have questions, please reach out. I'm here to help. I appreciate all the love, the support, you know, the generous donations. It's all that matters to me because, again, if you understand how valuable this is and you're just not some, I'm going to, you know, because there's a lot of people, and this is why, you know, I say like 95% of traders are going to fail. And then I'd say like 80, I'm hoping 80% or less of the traders in the Discord room fail. It's because of the mind. It's just all or nothing, have to be right, everything's black and white, got to go all in, can't use stops, have to use short-dated puts, don't buy in the money puts. They do all the little things. They don't take notes. You know, they've probably lost, and again, like everyone, you lose money, right? And what's the best way to learn? It's from your mistakes. And people don't learn from their mistakes. They just continue to make them over and over and over and hope things will be differently. And you're literally defining the definition of insanity, right? Is expecting different results from the same action, right? Like it gets the same thing every time. Pain. Oil rolling over, called it. Yeah, hey, congrats, Scott, if you sold your rig. Imagine you're going to be able to buy that back at a nice little discount. As we said, nothing is safe. Nothing is safe. I think the one that I'm most proud of is, as y'all know, as someone who's been trading gold, silver, the miners for what seems like since the Stone Age, this is what makes me the most proud. Talk about the levels, talk about the trap action, the sentiment. Everybody's like, I'm getting trolled endlessly. Gold's going to the moon. You're an idiot. Remember, we were the same idiots that told you to buy here, the same idiots to tell you to sell your positions here, same idiots told you to buy. Again, I've been, gold is never easy, but there's certain like replicating stuff that happens. And so today's gap, again, I took a little bit of profits on gold near term, just in case the rumor's not true that there's, or the rumor's true that there's, you know, Russian militaries getting to the Ukraine border. So again, if that's true and gold pops, cool. And again, it was so easy. You take the money and you short the tech. Short tech, short tech, short tech. Trash floats last. Now, again, if you want to be somebody who wants to short gold down, I said, all right, you're into this next level of support resistance, right? Oh, come on, let me stretch it out. Could we hold here? Maybe. I still think at worst you're going to get back to this area around 165, 164. It's such a tractor beam. Will it happen today? Probably not. But again, think about the last time you had the big gap and trap, right? You had some chop and then it just kind of worked its way lower. So just keep that in mind. Just trade around your positions. And sometimes I think people don't realize, like, you know, everyone thinks like gold is like oh, people were buying gold for defense. No, I think they were buying it because of inflation. Well, the jobs number came out today. Do you believe it for a minute? No, I don't care. It is not that good. But what does that do right now? That puts the Feds in the pickle. They can't cut rates with unemployment at the lowest it's been in 50 years or something stupid. Like, that whole narrative just got thrown out the window. The Fed pivot, wrong. Gone. Absolutely just obliterated. Fed pivot, gone. And again, we always talked about, if you looked at the Fed fund futures, they weren't showing a pivot this year. They're showing indecision. They're showing 50-50 rate hikes, or not 50-50. They're showing like rate hikes, staying neutral, or pivoting, always about around the same. Well, now today's action. I mean, you can't believe this stuff. And again, I think my biggest fans and also the biggest haters, because again, they're screaming of you're an idiot. Oh, you shouldn't short gold. Oh, you shouldn't short the market. Oh, you're early. Okay, I've said this 1,000 times. It's easy to be early, but you have to be aware when it starts, it can be just like this. So everybody who's trolling is like, oh, I get it now. Because usually what? Gaps start the move. Right? And if you're missing, you're chasing. Right? Hell yeah, those SPY 415 puts we bought earlier for pennies are now worth dollars. Again, a lower high. Look where it failed. I mean, I was trying to like get into the beginner room in people's heads. Like, once you get so scared to short because you've been burned, that's you. But people like me and others who are in the room that have been doing it, your confidence in that the market's going higher, it gives me absolute confidence that you're going to be dead wrong. And it's not that I'm a bully or trying to be manipulate. It's just like you're not even self-aware that the market maker is messing with your emotions. I'm fully aware. They've been messing with my emotions for 20 years. The hardest trade is usually the right trade, right? And look what happens there. You gap down. That's why it's so easy. You close out some of your gold stuff. You put it into the tech shorts. I'm like biting my knuckle, from Wolf of Wall Street. Leonardo DiCaprio is in his suit and he's like, that's me. Like, ooh, this might be an awesome middle. Awesome trade, whatever. If you took the Netflix short at 377 plus, like we talked about, you took Meta short today, you took the Apple short on the pop. And now again, people are like, oh, you got in earlier. It's not rolling over right away. I don't really care about being perfect. I just need to be in the right ballpark and define my risk. And I'm not going to sit here and watch every minute of every trade and try to expect that I can predict it. Someone's like, why would you short Apple? Here you go. Resistance, 0.618. It's all the same thing. Look, you can see it on the monthly. All makes sense. My alarm went off. Okay. Oh, it went a little higher. Dan, you better not short anymore. How many times have you been in a trade and it turns into a wick? Oh, you don't remember because you don't take notes. Okay, well that's not my problem. There's a lot of wicks at inflection points, right? Right? I'm just trying to think of one like off the top of my head, but it just is what it is. It is what it is. Wicks, wiki. Somebody was like, oh, don't short Tesla today. I'm like, it's literally retesting the highs from December. You have a great reference point near 200. Again, the stock essentially doubles on terrible earnings, terrible guidance, terrible long-term outlook. Okay. Again, it's part of earnings and the manipulation that is the game. VIX wakey. Yes, thank you, Senorita. Look at the VIX. We talked about an absolute gift down here. Absolute gift. Oh, but I'll have to be right away and it has to dump immediately. I don't care. If you're buying long dated puts at least into March, you should be comfortable with the price action, define your risk, know what you can lose, and boom. It's really that simple. Thoughts on uranium? The bulls are back in full force. Uranium, like the spot price or like something like CCJ, Scott? Because as I've said, these are not safe. I mean, I posted in the recap many a times, like, be careful up here. Ten cuidado, mi amigo. 10, cuidado. I don't trust it up here. I don't trust it. I mean, again, look at that straight line move. Look at oil. Look at all the other commodities. Remember how I've said lay off of natural gas for what seems like a broken record? Every video, lay it off it, lay off it. I'm like, UNG could just go continue on. People are like, oh, but look at the volume. I'm like, but it's not holding. And again, remember, these ETFs are crap. Don't trust the volume on this stuff. I'm telling you. Oh, Dan, what about the dollar? That's something you've been harping on. Yeah. Is this not the start of an up move? Well, we'll see. You've seen this action. Just got to stay up. But after this, remember, we talked about this was the fail point. Go watch the video. I said, I think this is the top. I said, if we get down here, I will be absolutely more bearish and also looking for the pop here because now you've stretched out. You've hit support resistance. You've got it. Everything you need after a big down move. Oh, oversold, overbought. No, look at this. This is a trap. What happens with a trap, right? Looks below, comes right back, next day gaps up. Do you see how this works? Again, it's the mechanisms of this are not easy. But at the extremes, you got to be cognizant that there's going to be traps, there's going to be chop. You're going to be early. If you think you're going to be spot on and you don't define your risk, you could get blown out. That's why I was telling people, like, be careful shorting tech. I'm not shorting tech as heavily. Like, again, had a little Netflix, had a little Meta that got popped off, then reloading, Meta, hard, Apple, hard, added, Netflix, today. All today. Again, the trash floats last. I don't need to be early on that crap. But if you followed First Solar, you watch the financials, retesting, Caterpillar, I mean, you pick the name. Oil, all these things we talk, gold, whatever. Again, you're picking a basket. Again, that's why sometimes I don't go with all one sector because I want to know, okay, do I see all sectors starting to melt? Do I see certain ones acting weak? Does what? A dollar affect things, bonds, all these little things. Well, at the end then, if the trash floats last, what happens when the trash is done? She's yelling timber. Right? And this is the thing. Like, think about how many people, and this is why I feel like 1,000 times more confident about the trade. And again, if I'm wrong here, fine. Then good job on them. Every idiot thinks tech is going to the moon. They're saying, oh, this is bad news. It's just, it's just priced in. No, the stock's priced in the upside potential. Not that they're going to the moon. Remember, I've said this 1,000 times. The end of the bull market in tech is done. It's going to bounce. Remember, talking about like NDAQ, like the volume on the NASDAQ is going to absolutely die. If it dies, it dies. Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to explain to y'all. Like, you got to be thoughtful. Because as soon as your emotions get you thinking the market can't go lower, what happens? It turns around. Or does go lower, sorry. I mean, who remembers the October bottom? I mean, again, I can rehash these examples, but I'm assuming most people watching this are following the page and not just coming here to. And again, if it's your first time, then go watch the previous recaps about certain inflection points. Again, I'm begging people to stop watching the present moment in the market. For the love of God, spend 10 times the amount of time studying the past, the formations, how it felt, have a journal. You're going to win. If you sit around and watch the present moment and let the emotions and all of the chemicals in your brain just flood around, you have no freaking clue what you're doing. You just don't. Like, that's the recipe to lose. If it's not obvious, I don't know what to say. And again, and I'm not even like sitting here assuming like if the market just wants to hold here, fine. I don't care. I like the levels which we're getting in at shorting. This is what it is. SMH, why did I forget SMH? I'm like, that's one of the biggest. It's like Soxus. If you got in and you got stopped out, great. I didn't add any of that because I went after the other ones. But here you go. Hit the max upside potential. I don't know why I just like brain farted that one. I guess I've tried to, again, I still have a little bit of stock in that. No, not a lot. A little bit. No, I have a little bit of options. I have a lot of stock in it that I'm trying to get back at some point and have some calls. But again, to me, that's the semiconductor index is the biggest piece of crap out there. People are like, well, it text the future. Okay, well, have you studied the past? No. Okay, well, let's talk about it. I'll talk about it right now. Yeah, you can't do this minute by minute. It's just too hard. It is absolutely too hard. So in the 1990s, we had a tech bubble. What did the SMH do off the high? 105 down to 16. You do the math. This is just a dead cat bounce. Now, again, I don't know if it's going down to like 20 or something, but I would be happy with 132. And again, remember, it won't get there in a straight line. So you're going to have to trade around your leverage ETFs. Just don't forget that. Don't get that twisted. So, I mean, I like the potential here. And again, I'm not perfect either. Like, there's certain things where I'm sitting there like, I can't manage everything all the time perfectly. And so if you're in certain names and you got stopped out, good for you. You did it better than me in some circumstances. Again, I don't think people understand, like, you can't expect to be perfect. And you don't get mad at yourself if you bought something and it goes against you. The only thing you can be mad at is like you didn't have a stop. Well, what's your plan? What does the evidence say? Well, in my mind, maybe this is my mistake here. I will be wrong on the SMH. I could be. I'm putting this out there, trying to be honest with you guys. Like, I could be wrong. But to me, it looks very obvious. Like, as soon as it looked like a head and shoulders bottom, right? Everyone rally. We could rally. How high? Again, you're coming into the resistance. What if this is a big complex ass head, like here's your left shoulder and here's your right. Here's your complex of head. Here you go. I mean, again, the area matters. The area matters. And I have complete faith in every, again, like think about it as in any cycle, whether it's tech, commodities, housing, you name it. You overbuild, you oversupply. What happens? Prices come down. Will the market and the economy slow? Then it gets real bad. Now they're unloading unlimited amounts of chips. Do you think we're not going to get into a recession at some point this year? Again, maybe they don't. Maybe they pump the liquidity. I don't know. And this is where, again, you have to define your risk. I can try to advise you, but ultimately, you need to know what you're willing to lose. And you got to stick to that. And if you can't, I mean, at some point, one bad mistake is just going to ruin you. And then your confidence is gone. And then when your confidence is gone, now you think you can't trade. And it's like, no, you just had one mistake. Executing. It's not that you can't trade. First Solar, for example, another nice one. Getting down here. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I personally, the ones that are working, I'm just not even watching. We'll expect they're going to, they'll get there when they get there kind of thing, right? Caterpillar popped up to like 250s, was watching that. All right, whatever. It's just a day. I don't care. Goes down 265 down to the 50-day bounces. Here comes the wick, right? Just kind of is what it is. XLF, again, really playing games up here. Really playing games. Yeah, Ego. I mean, I think they're getting bought out, right? So, but be careful. If AEM and PAAS dump, then Ego will fall at some point. Okay. I mean, you couldn't pay me to hold the miners, man. Where do I First Solar? I mean, if we get a VIX spike and the market absolutely dumps, I mean, it seems very logical that First Solar has plenty of room to get down to minimum 160. I don't know why I wouldn't get in the 140s. And again, we'll get there in a straight line. No, roll your options out, take profits as you have to. I mean, I would not be surprised. Again, you run the fibs out. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't get down here. And again, if oil and gas get absolutely slapped and continue to get slapped, do yourself a favor. Study the past on First Solar. Zinger. This thing can dump pretty good. I mean, I'm trying to, I mean, you probably don't have the 2011 stuff. Let me see if I can just, no, it's too far. Check the monthly. I mean, you can just, I mean, you can have months of just, wow. 134 down to 10. Are we going to get that low? I don't know. I like the short for what it is. Let's get into, again, I'll show people meta, why I'm like, just like very excited about the levels. Look at the monthly. Think they're really going to be able to get over 200? I mean, they just announced the kiss of death. 40 billion in a buyback is the biggest waste of money out there. Maybe they could use that 40 billion to invest in the metaverse and grow the company and hire on supreme talent and diversify what they do. No, they just got the IBM kiss of death, endless buyback, the GE kiss of death. You know, like they just pretend like, all right, well, you know what, our business is good. We're just going to buy back stock forever and execute. Meta looks like it needs a higher right shoulder. Now again, that's probably easy to say if the market doesn't roll over. No, I don't really think they're really following each other. I think just tech in general is up and down. I mean, before today, look at Netflix was down. Here it comes, spikes back up, and here's your long wick. These names, and it's just like First Solar. You don't know when they start. Some of them, at least, they get a little wild. That's why you just try to get in near the highs, trade around your position. Then once you feel like the market's confirmed, then it gets a little easier. It's just hard sometimes with that kind of stuff. I thought the right shoulder should equal. No, they don't have to equal. No, not at all. Think of like, I mean, here's probably in this chart, there's probably like a uneven shoulder here. Yeah, I mean, here's the left shoulder at 615. The right shoulder got up to 620. You know, they don't have to equal at all, actually. They can be kind of off-angled as well. I've seen that. But again, I mean, I'm not really looking at from the head and shoulders perspective. If you want, I guess. Like, what time frame when you're saying head and shoulders? What looks like it? Like, maybe that's probably the next question. Like, what are you referencing head and shoulders? When you say shampoo pattern, what are you referring to? $10 to 15 years? Oh, okay. On Netflix? You talking about like on Netflix 10 to 15 year chart? Oh, wow, that's, I mean, again, that takes out a lot of the I mean, you must be just talking about this area, I'm assuming, right? Well, here you are. You're at maybe the shoulder line here. Keep in mind, like the move is over. So to expect much higher moves off the backside, that's probably not as logical, in my opinion, right? Like, it's different when you have a sweet like bull market and everything's kind of cruising higher. Like, this is the game over. This isn't like a friendly like just pullback. And so remember, everybody's trapped who bought in here. Oh, I agree. They all look terrible. Terrible. It's just, again, it looks very logical to me. I mean, you just get somewhere in here. Just get in here. Now you're there. I mean, you almost hit the 20-month. Close enough for government work. Does it have to hit it? I mean, I don't know. Some charts have recurring patterns. Some don't on that kind of stuff. I'm just more watching, like, the market. If you really think... And here's the problem for, say, Techer, is the Qs, right? Now here is this, now a head and shoulders top, right? Left shoulder, and here's your right shoulder. Right? You get into the supply zone, and instantaneously, it's like, doink! It's interesting. I have, like, my QQQ old long-term trend lines. Oh, hello, Moto. Well, hello there. Okay, see what happens. We don't have any guarantees, but it's very logical what's going to happen next. If you start thinking about sentiment, the dollar, how earnings are going, what the Fed just said, how how excited the bulls are. And Scott, now you've been around, and I'm talking to you because you're the only one interacting, and I appreciate it. You remember at the lows how bearish everybody was, and then it just turns around. And you've been around following, you've seen how it goes up. Remember August? How excited everybody was. And well, you got the same kind of excitement again. Remember, the average bear market rally 17.3%. Does anyone have a guess what this is from here? 260 up to 3. I'm going to run the numbers just real quick. So let's go 313 minus 260 divided by 260. 20%. All right, 20% rally. Okay. Is it going to stick? I don't know. Yeah, and that's the thing. We talked about, like, you get these blow-off patterns and you have the retest, and then here you have the retest. Well, the hardest thing is, right, like, you get retest more through the chop. If we're in a bear market, like, you can get this straight-up drop quick. Yeah, the euphoria was nuts. I mean, it absolutely was. I was telling people, like, that's how you blow off. And I don't know if you guys, some of y'all remember this. Let me just pull up the SPY. I think it's easier to see. I think a lot of people got pissed and were like, you got to start covering down here. And then look what it did. It went, well, is this the same kind of pattern? Chop, then one look above and fail. I mean, again, remember, you can have traps on the weekly, right? Like, are you familiar? I mean, it makes sense, right? You can have traps on the weekly. Like, it doesn't have to be always the daily or the 10-minute or the hourly. Like, you can get longer-term traps. Remember, we talked about novice gap. What are the odds that this wasn't a novice gap? Now, does it have to turn right around right away? We talk about that. But could it be? Could it be? Probably more than likely. It's just, people sit here and they go, well, tell me for sure what's going to happen. I'm trying to give you the best insights I can. And if anyone, and there's a reason why people follow, and the people say, oh, you're in a cult, or you've created a cult. No. The people who follow understand the logic. The people who don't listen to CNBC and they watch, they watch stock twits and Twitter, and they follow these people who are probably really smart, but they're scared to go against the market. I don't give a crap what anyone says. I'm doing reviews of the evidence every day. I don't understand or know how everyone else makes their systems, but I don't follow anybody online for a reason, because just like you should follow me, but you should do your own damn homework. Because then you rely only on someone solely. Like, you got to be able to see it for yourself. That's why I tried every day doing the recaps to go through all the different sectors. I don't just pull up one stock and go, Apple's bullish, market's going on to the moon. New bull market has just started. No, that's not really what you want to do. Yes, I try to show and explain, but I'm amazed how people are confused. But then I always have to go back to the basic fundamentals of what? The brain. It's almost like, and again, here's the analogy, and I'll move on. You can date the worst person in the world, but your emotions are so tied up, you don't even see it, and all your friends see it, and you just do dumb stuff. Or relate that to any example of trying to get in shape. Well, you hang out with people who aren't in shape, and you don't exercise, and it's like you need to do it, and it's very obvious, and you just don't. Like, the brain is not your friend here. I've said this a million times. Your ego is not your amigo. Your ego is going to be humbled by the market at some point. You will absolutely be humbled. And people say, oh, you're wrong, you're early. I say this all the time. I usually am early. The odds of picking the exact top, unless you're just ignorant as hell and you don't understand the market at all, are not high. Especially in swing trading. A third of the time you're going to be right. A third of the time you're going to be early. A third of the time you're going to have to wait through some chop. And then 10% you'll be wrong. I guess that is a little more. No, I guess that is. I guess we said 30%. 10% you're just going to be dead wrong. How do you handle that? I can't tell you how to handle it. Shoe shine, boy. That's so funny. It's a Livermore thing. So, in the future, I'll try to transition from long to cash, then later to short, not directly from long to short. Yeah, and that's the thing. That is the hardest part, but also being able to like identify a trend and know you're there, right? And being able to like trade around it. It's hard to switch the mindset. But that's why you have to be evidence-based. Because a lot of the people who go off of feel, well, what does the market make you feel? Confused. Makes you feel a certain way. Like, that's how you know the market makers are doing their job. Like, I was laughing at the beginner room. Like, they all don't believe any of this is about the drop. They're all like, oh, the bears are wrecked. It's only going to continue to bounce higher. Some of the smartest people I know out there saying the same thing. I'm like, okay. Well, now the market maker, because again, people are very scared. To what? Be wrong. I mean, I don't care. That's why I have haters. I put every trade out there. I put out every circumstance that I'm in, and I want people to see, like, I'm not perfect. I'm not scared of not being perfect, I guess, if that's the best way to describe it. Yay, meta goes red. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. You got to be careful. You just got to be careful. I'm telling you right now, like, if you're scared to do something, it's probably the right thing to do. Scared to have a stop, probably should have stops. Scared to go against the grain, it's probably time to do it. With defined risk. I mean, that's just the market. Oh, gold can't go down. I mean, I told you guys how... Again, because gold is the most manipulated market. I mean, it's probably easier to just... It's always easier to short it, obviously. Same thing with silver. Like, they love to beat down paper metals. We know that. If anyone's not familiar with that, please watch previous videos or let me explain it to you at some other point or later here. It's just obvious. And so that gap down's like, goodbye. Remember, we talk about gaps, especially in gold. Typically lead moves. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Look at that meta. Now red. Oh, man. Too bad. SOX get over 20. Apple 155. Okay, cool. Gold, again, if you had... That's why I was saying earlier. If you had huge gains in gold, which you should, hold dust, maybe hold options. If you have stock gold, I would not stay short it. Unless it gets a bounce and you can trade around your position. I think you could stay in the puts you have and buying the dust. Because remember, miners get smoked if the market gets dumped, even if gold kind of rallies. Right? Liquidity-driven events. If you're not familiar with this, and maybe this will help why I'm like, you can hold on to the dusty bottoms. If you don't know that reference. Like, miners just get smoked. Like, here you go. 2008. Right? Gold started rallying. It's like, got dumped. Right? COVID, temporary, right? Temporarily. So that's why I'm pretty confident that you can hold the dust if you expect the market to go down. But I would be careful holding the gold. I mean, silver's probably going to go nowhere. It's just sad to say. I don't know the exact perfect answers for all of this. Yeah, trend to hear the more... Yeah, Banff, dude. Remember I told you, like, I was getting all these crazy advertisements from gold and silver. I'm like... They don't post. Now, write this in your notes if you trade gold, silver. You're not going to see a bunch of gold buy and sell advertisements at the low, okay? Just remember that. You're going to see them where? At the highs. Shh. Shh. Little secret. At the highs. All right, any thoughts, questions, concerns? You got me for about another 30 minutes. Throwing a few ads in there. I've been told I'm supposed to. CCJ, low of the day. Again, do not trust uranium. It's the same thing as, like, I love ag names. Scott, if you're... I love ag names. Love them. I think you're going to have to eat. I think no matter what happens, you have to eat. And obviously you're going to need higher yields on farms. And farmland's coming harder. I mean, whatever. Point being, that stuff, and especially the biggest input is natural gas. When natural gas is gone, see ya! So, of course... Ag names are going to have higher margins, but look at the stocks. I'm just not going to ride through. I know they can get smoked cheddar. I know this. Man. I know they can pull back. Now again, I have a secret wish. Fill the gap. If it doesn't, cool, chop. Coming late. Thoughts on direction of oil near term and longer term? Talked a little bit about it earlier, but not enough to really probably be thorough. We talked about this being a little bit of a double top M. Talked about if it failed, it's probably going back down into the mid-60s long term. Long term, I would not be buying oil at the moment. I don't know if... I mean, I remember some of the... What's his name? Russell was buying oil. I'm like, okay. I anticipated inflation to drag... Again, I thought they would try to stay a little loose and then oil would rip higher. But clearly things are getting worse, and the Feds are going to be raising rates. And I'm assuming, again, this is why shorting oil, again, I'm not really playing in the oil patch. It just helps me confirm it. If something happens in Russia, any point, your oil short is toast. So I try to take that off the table. Same thing with gold. Like now that it's snapped in our direction big, I'm trying to take out what I consider, probably sorry, someone just emailed me and distracted me. I would try to take off the stock risk, right? Try to take off the stock risk. If you got puts in gold, cool. If you got some dust, again, that's fine. Shorting oil, tough here. Because I think it does go back to 60s. I'd rather be, and it's a great question, I'd rather just wait for the bottom than try to really hunt any trades at the moment. And if you're short oil, cool. Yep. Thank you on the dust. Yeah. Hold on. These market conditions have taught me one thing. You must be patient. I'm always early, think I'm right, and get smoked. Patience pays. Again, Gems, this is a good... I'm sorry you got smoked. And hopefully you learn from this. And this is the one thing you just got to be like, and tattoo this on your forearm if you have to. Every trade you get into, your brain is going to want to tell you you're right. You don't get into a trade and you go, I'm going to be wrong. That's why you got to define your risk. You always have to define your risk. Because your brain, my brain, we all it loves everything to work out how we think. Right? It's how everything thinks. It's how you think. And so you got to be like, all right, you have to be, and this is where I try to explain, I know the people who are emotional and get really tied into their trades, they're the ones who get what? They're the ones that get destroyed in trading because they get married to their beliefs. And if the goal is to do what the market's going to do, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So looking at oil, yeah, split it up, layer in, take your trades. Trade around your positions. There's you had some wins on Netflix. If you didn't take any trades on that, perfect profits, no. I'm talking about First Solar, trading around it. Same thing with the FAAS, right? I'm trying to remember. They got a lot going on here. Metals, you could have traded around. Remember, I talked about got popped off and then waited for the ad, took some puts, took the profits, and then on that next pop, boom, did it again. And again, that's the thing. This is why it's so hard to and again, semis, I'm definitely, James, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't have a Soxis cost basis in the low 20s. It is what it is. Smoked. But again, this is why it's kind of like the layer in rule. If you only get in a couple hundred shares and you give yourself cash availability, and you can, if you have to use margin, I understand, but just be careful with it. You got to be thoughtful of okay, I'm in, I'm down. All right, I like the prices lower. Well, hopefully you didn't go all in at the start, because now it's really hard to add. That's where it gets really tricky. And again, staying solvent and not getting murdered essentially is got to be rule number one. Long-term oil seems cheap, but short-term looks like again, Scott, you're saying cheap it again, and this is why I don't like to say overbought, oversold, cheap, too expensive. Our opinion, that's trying, again, when you say that, your brain's going to want to believe it's cheap. Why don't we just be completely evidence-based? I agree with you. I think at a certain point, it becomes definitely looks attractive, but I'm not going to say it's cheap at 70. Do you remember COVID? Because I remember oil went to negative futures. I hadn't seen that. It just is what it is. So again, I don't want to start thinking something's cheap or it's overbought. Try to kind of really stick with it. Yes, sir. To me, if dollar goes higher, it may put some pressure on the... dude, the semis are toast. I'm not worried about the semis. They'll eventually get smoked. They always do after a bull market in tech. My problem was the strike got too far away from me, and I kept doubling. Oh, see, yeah, that's one of the hardest things. Yeah, nat gas has been cheap and keeps going down. Agreed. That's the problem with options. If you pick the wrong options, and again, this is why people are like, how many options do you trade? Sometimes I don't go huge. People are like, oh, you got 50, 100. I'm like, very rarely do I have a lot of options. I try to do what? I try to play with small amounts because I know in my mind options can go to zero. So I can't, again, I take money out of my options count every time I win In my stock account, I pay, quarterly or monthly. I mean, I'm just always trying to pull money out of the options account like it's free money. I don't want to have a big options account because I know what's going to happen. And maybe you're better than me, but I know at some point they get blown out or I take significant monster losses. Because again, you're going to be wrong with options. And it might not have anything to do with you. Long term, how will it stay down there? Scott, you're asking questions like there's an answer. Like you don't know until the news comes out, right? So I'm probably feel the same way. Like, why is oil dropping? I don't know. Who knows? But do I want to sit here and try to create a narrative of why it's going lower, or just let it fucking happen? Excuse my language. Because if I create the narrative that it's cheap here, then I'm like eyeing to buy oil when there's literally 100 better shorts in the market sitting right there in front of me. So why do I need to spend time watching oil? Just set an alarm and let it do its thing. I hope that helps. Better be late than early? Not typically. I mean, define late, right? Because if you don't know the levels and you're always focused on it. I mean, we talked about, here I'm going to go back to gold because this is always fun for me. It's easier. Remember we talked about here, everyone hated it and just played this game. And then the Fed spoke and it was like, man, this is just too low. I mean, it's literally asking to get bought. There it went. Holding levels, right? Now it gets up here, retest higher levels. If you didn't get into the gold short before today, this is late. This is late because keep in mind too, after the gap down, you might get some chop. So the easiest entry, the ability to ride through, is gone. Now you anticipate it to continue, but now you don't have a buffer of gains to hold through. It could chop around, and then what if you're shorting gold and freaking Apple drops 15, 20 points? And gold drops $2. You're sitting there going, ugh. So that's, again, late. 9 times out of 10, late trades are tough to hold right through because what's going to happen is we always talk about the first drop is always bought. Right? At some point, right? But you don't know how far down it's going to be. So you're trying to hunt shorts the whole way up. Versus, all right, you take your profits and now you're like, all right, well, I got gains. And I can either set stops fully or I can start now looking for areas to add back. But at least you're in the money. You're winning. Right? You can't go broke with profits. You can go broke if you're you're shorting and chasing. Just same thing as buying and chasing. You're just short. Go with the MM in the market. Don't force trades. I'm just trying to be right again. And that's the thing. When someone says oil's cheap, Apple's expensive, cat is, you got to be careful. I have to be careful with that one too, because now I'm pre-paving my mind to believe that it's time to buy or time to sell. Right? You got to be careful. Did you get Tesla at all? I was scrolling through it and did say, no, I didn't, but I was promoting Xavier because somebody was saying you can't short Tesla up here, and I was just laughing at it. I'm like, if anything, you absolutely can short Tesla. You're coming into a reference point after a huge run up and squeeze. Check out the monthly. Oh, hello, Moto. Absolutely you can short Tesla up there. That makes sense. Yeah, added it. No, that's cool. Cool. All right, late trades are like chasing. You rarely win chasing. Yeah, if you get in, Jeff, and I think you probably understand this then now, if you're saying this, it's chasing. If you're late to the trade, you just can't expect to make a bunch of... the easy money is already made, maybe, starting off. Does that make sense? Right? The easy part of the trade and the entry and the high is made. So now there can be reverberations and chop. And this is the hardest thing about chasing is, what if you get an exact retest later, right? I still remember down here, people were really trolling hard on gold. They're like, you missed gold, you idiot. You missed it. And I said, go watch it. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But I know it typically doesn't bottom until later in the year. And then it came right the hell back. Right the hell back. Right. Then it went. That's what's hard about chasing. Because look, now this gap confirms it. And just like you see with gold, I mean, it confirms it's probably going lower. But I think the hardest thing for me with gold right now is if those rumors of Russia going to slap Ukraine around, which they're probably not, I could see this popping right back. keep in mind, when is the best time to short gold? Do you know? Do you follow Dan? Do you talk to him? It's always the second quarter. That's the biggest move typically, is in the second quarter. The seasonality, I guess it bottomed there, but you still had a second quarter dump. I mean, I could go through this endlessly. Second quarter, March dump, whatever. It's usually March, April. Maybe that's probably not the best because it's like right on the cusp. Here it is. I mean, it ran down to the second quarter. Every year's a little different, obviously. So here you go. Here's the second quarter top dumper. And again, the best time to buy gold will be in July. Again, gold's my jam. Gold is my jam. Hope that helps. I'll be around. I'll be around all year. Didn't oil futures go negative a few years ago? Yes, they did. Yes, they absolutely did on oil. Absolutely did. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I could be wrong here. I don't know if oil's gonna go negative futures, but I wouldn't be surprised if what? Natty light, natty gas, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it'll go negative, but it could get freaking stupid. So good chat. Hope this stuff helps. I probably need to start looking at my SPY puts, taking gains on them. Getting a little distracted here. Got to leave here at 1 o'clock. Just as in listening in the comments on favor of the oil sanctions, there probably are some sanctions coming. Again, to me, oil at this point is a hard trade. It's a hard trade. I don't know if I want to get caught in it. Let's see what happens when you get here at 410, 411. The SPY. Again, the oil sanctions. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with oil right now. Lot going on with oil. It's hard to know for sure. But let's just kind of do what we always do. TLT. We talked about there's a huge short interest in it, but interesting, dropped. Retested the highs. Again, market ain't gonna like higher rates, clearly. The dollar. Market ain't liking the dollar going higher, gapping up over the 20-day. Is it a repeat of this pattern, or is this like the start of the move? It looks more like the bottom with volume. Keep that in mind. Volume at inflection points. Very helpful. VIX, way too cheap. Way too cheap. But people go, oh, but you said you can't do. Don't say cheap or expensive. Okay, true. Say we're in the zone, the cheap zone. Auto zone. SPY. This feels like the trap. Remember you had the trap down here? You had a preceding double bottom, what looked like, and then a pop and flop, chop, whatever. Here you go. Double. One slightly higher high. I mean, you could make the argument head and shoulders bottom, head and shoulders top with multiple shoulders. And people are like, multiple shoulders? Yeah, that happens. Can happen. There's a multiple shoulder looking one. It's kind of like slightly special. But this is, I mean, again, that's why you just got to know the levels. Honestly, if you look at this area, hold the monthly again. Is this just a monthly trap? You just look again. You had it here, and remember August. Okay. Here you go. Is this just another trap? This area matters, obviously. That's what we're talking about, like 405, 415. Well, you got up to 420 or 419, whatever. So we'll see. What's Austin saying? Gonna need at least a break yesterday. I don't know, man. Your charts don't really make sense to me because again, that trend line to me is temporary, potentially. I mean, again, you have to look at all the evidence. Like, you can't just look at the cues in a vacuum, right? If rates are going higher, dollar's going higher, VIX is bottoming, everybody's all in. Like, I mean, do I really need to be super technical right now? I don't think so. I don't think I need to be technically based. I just know I need to short as close to the highs as freaking possible. That's all I need to do. That's what I need to do. I don't need again, because here's the art of trading, right? If everything is just drawing charts and being technical, everybody would make money. Everybody would be rich. Everybody would be rich. February 9th. Interesting. Okay. Do we get a retest? I don't know. I don't know. Got some comments. What are you thinking about the TLT monthly pattern? Hold on, we gotta go back. Serious, what are your price targets for Soxus? I'm looking at it curiously. Okay, that's a good question. Because I have to ask myself. I mean, I literally wrote that down today for myself, and I said near term, probably 27. But let's just go to the videotape. Because remember, I don't think people realize, like, SMH can absolutely get, like, katoof. Remember, what also is the Soxus ETF, and the Philadelphia Semiconductor. This is actually the Soxus is based off, but still, it's easier to chart this than that for me with eSignal. I mean, think about, like, you get back to, like, the December highs, puts you at what? Remember, this will decay a little bit, right? 30. So that's what I was saying in my mind, maybe 27, 28. But if this is an actual start of a bear market, again, this is the thing. I think the bear market rally's done. Like, the Qs just rallied 20%, y'all. 20% off the bottom. Did the math on it earlier, showing people. Like, that's probably not going to sustain in the evidence. So, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't get back to the mid-30s if it gets really stupid. I mean, remember, that this thing can double. Easily do a double. So if you do a double from, say, 20, 40, we'll see. We'll absolutely see. I don't know. All right. What do you think? What are the TLT monthly pattern? You know, the bond trade is going to be tough. Like really trying to, like, squeeze a ton out of it. I don't know. I look at the monthly pattern, and we talk about holding zones, and this is acting like a tractor beam. I thought you might be able to get up there, but you could just be like choppiness. I don't know if I'm going to really look at the TLT for, oh, come on, there you go, little spy. Get you some, girl. I mean, I think we all know inflation's anchoring in, and then people are going to buy bonds for security, potentially, or if, God forbid, if the U.S. defaults, who knows? Either way, I don't know if you're going to have much soundness or safety in bonds. Ultimately, meaning, like, cash is probably the best. But again, cash will devalue. This is where, again, you got to know how to hedge your account, your market, or just be comfortable just not making money. Knowing that you're not blowing up an account leaves you bullets to fire later. That's sometimes the best thing that you can do. News dependent, of course. Well, I was going to mention today the candle will look at August, preferably a bigger body, though. I hope so. Shout out to the Microsoft shorts. Let's check that out. Well, isn't that just scrumdiddlyumptious, my man? Yeah. Shout out. Look at that. Double topper. Wow. Thought the 200-day, remember after hours with earnings or whatever, I was like, ah, damn. Then it got there, but then you even better. Double top, drop the top, ba-da-da, ba-da, whatever. All right, any other questions, thoughts, concerns? You got for a couple more minutes. Dan, don't delete tweets like Barry, Ella. You may have the last laugh after all. I've never deleted a tweet. I promise. I've never deleted a tweet. I don't have a huge following, so I guess I don't get absolutely murdered, and I'm not going to show up on CNBC when I'm wrong. But, I mean, this thing of, like, attainment of omnipotency and perfection in trading is a absolute nightmare. Because there isn't anything, like, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to know. So that's where it's like, you know, they say a broke clock's right twice a day. And, I mean, I got a lot of those comments. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll see you later. Gosh, oil making new lows. Okay. You know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm omnipotent. I'm not from the future. I'm not a market maker. I'm just evidence-based. I'm probability-based. If I'm probability-based, then for sure you're not 100% going to be right. So, what's up, Kat? Thoughts on NGL? Okay, let me take a look. I mean, I think the thoughts are to short tech. And it's short it with your stops. Not NFL. Short it with stops. And you're probably at the highs. And there's a screaming short Apple. Oh, God, please don't show me these crappy penny names. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, penny names that are crap might be getting short squeezed here because of people are shorting other stocks. I mean, if I was in this trade, I mean, you're at a reference. You got a lot of resistance up here. I mean, I don't know what your upside is, but it's probably not that going to be that much further. Right? I don't know, somewhere in this box from the 170 to 2. There's no volume down here, so I don't know. Like, this is just a penny name. Pump and dump, I don't know. Maybe it's waiting for the pump. Maybe it's waiting for the next pump. I don't know. This is tough. I mean, you want to make trading hard, trade penny stocks. You want to make trading hard, trade penny stocks. Right? They're hard. Will you win on them? Sure. Will you lose on them? Yes, absolutely fucking lutely. They're penny stocks. There's a reason they're trash. But you got to trade them. And obviously the biggest concern is when you go long or short penny stocks, like the volatility can blow you out. Like that's the problem. Like, you're not going to get a 50% move in a stock, probably, that you're, a regular stock that we talk about, but you're probably not going to get blown out either. Yeah, I mean, again, once you treat trading like gambling, don't be surprised when you lose bigger. I mean, you're going to have bigger volatility. I mean, that's just the nature of it. You take on bigger risk. You trade penny stocks. You trade trash. You trade the meme stocks. Well, then at some point, you're going to get busted. Someone was talking about buying this. I was like, okay. Right? Like, let's look at good old AMC. 6:30 today. Again, the trade was over up here. And now people are like, oh, buy down here at 4 or 5, 6. I don't know. I mean, the stock momentum is lost. I mean, are you betting on some sort of news? Because that's all you really are when you're playing those names. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. If you ran this like a business and you came to me, and this is Shark Tank or whatever you want to call it, and you said, I want to buy AMC. I think they have long-term great potential. Okay. Like, that's what you want to build your investing empire on? Okie dokie. Good luck. I mean, now, a lot of people hate on Buffett. I get it. But Buffett doesn't really short, and he's going long. He's always trying to buy names that he thinks are going to sustain. He's not buying the trash. And he's still wrong, obviously. But, if you play in the trash, don't surprise you get dirty and stinky. Not presentable. I don't know how many times I have to tell people to lay off crap stocks. But all it takes is one big win in one, and you're just like, oh, I can repeat that one every time, and then they forget about all the other times they sat around and watched the market do what it's going to do, twiddled their thumbs, and they got stuck, or it just didn't move, or it was like the last thing to move, right? Like if you watched AMC, like, let's see if we can see it. I mean, I guess it's been following the market off of its lows, but it's just the problem is I guess it just makes lower lows. That's the problem here. So, yeah, it's just tough. I mean, again, I apologize. I don't know how the best wording for it. But it's just like I'm trying to find the stocks that move with the market, because then if I can anticipate what the market's going to do, it's easier to participate what the stocks are going to do, right? Like it's a Livermore thing. Picking names that I just have no effing clue what they're going to do. Are they, the short interest is high, it's going to spike. Okay, well, why is the short interest high? Oh, because it's a piece of crap. Okay, now I'm like trying to be smarter and play this game of outsmarting the market makers or outsmarting the shorts. And I'm like, I ain't got time for that. Because I've seen what happens is both problem. Like, you do good and then you get smoked. And there's a reason why there's a huge short interest. Because the company announces a monster warrant deal where they dilute the shares and give away the whole kit and caboodle. Or they announce a big secondary and the stock dumps. Like, again, smart money doesn't short a stock heavily unless they think it's going to the ground. Is that clear? I mean, I don't know how else to say that. So if you trade cheap stocks, you're playing with fire. That's all you can really say there. You're really trying to outsmart the market versus just do what the market's doing, which that's a strategy for the bold. But you're not going to get rich trading penny stocks. And if you do, Take all your money out of trading and quit, because I think at some point it's kind of a joke. Yeah, Mitso, it's funny you say that. You usually know about the information beforehand. Of course, and they might try to trigger the short rally so that they can short more. You know what I mean? Like, they may have covered their shorts, have longs, or have shorts and bought a ton of calls, and they're trying to snap the market up. I mean, I've seen that a bazillion times. It's just, I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not an insider, and you usually can't tell on that stuff. I don't know. I mean, I could talk for hours about stupid shit that I've done, people do, and it's like, oh, you think you're gonna, you know how they say, like, abs are made in the gym? Like, that's the truth. Or, sorry, abs are made in the kitchen. You know, like, if you want to get a six-pack, you're strong, you gotta, like, change your diet. Well, you're never gonna get rich trading eating junk food, playing on the, I mean, you might have to, like, work extremely hard to do it, but it's, you know, it's easier if you just control what you eat and you just trade simpler stocks. But some people just, again, they have small accounts and they don't realize, like, they're going to gamble on small amounts, and as soon as they make more money, because they're never going to take any out, they're going to continue to do the strategies that gamble, and then they're going to lose it and be right back where they started. It's like the never-ending circle of death, or a loop of nothingness. And people are like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, look at your stock, you know, look at your account balance. Is it really going up year over year, month over month? Probably not. And if it is, it's highly volatile. And again, maybe you're better at them than me. I'm just say for the average person, I'd stay the hell away. Like, there's a reason, like, in Wolf of Wall Street, they're like pumping them, right? Right? They laugh. They're like, do people really buy these pieces of crap? And they're like, yeah, but the rips are huge because the spreads are huge. And it's like, yeah, let's get dumb people to buy stocks. And it's really easy to say, hey, you should buy this stock. You should sell that. You know what I mean? You should buy this. You ever seen Boiler Room? I always think of that. Yeah, penny stock traders don't respect their money. I agree, they don't. I genuinely agree with that. You're trying to get rich on garbage. Those stocks usually have tons of debt, terrible management, no future other than hype. And if they get, you know, 1 out of 1,000 might come back to life, but 99.9% of them end up going to settle. All right, any other questions, thoughts, concerns before I wrap this up? Just kind of watching the market in the background. Yeah, I mean, they are literally lottery tickets. You're trying to get the 1,000,000,001 odds, and you're sinking money into lottery tickets where it's like, man, imagine if you spent that money and you put it into an investment property, you put it into a dividend fund or an ETF. I don't know. I just really don't really like those dividend funds. They get smoked at some point too, and you're paying taxes on your dividends. That's why I like real estate. That's why I like real estate a lot better. And you eventually take your equity gains. You can get out of paying capital gains taxes. What do you think about silver? Talked about it earlier. Smash. We've been short that metal sector. I haven't been short silver, but gold. I mean, gold paper is a manipulated game. Like, that's why it's easy to short when it gets stuck. And here's the thing why I didn't get into silver. Look what it did here. I mean, it's just a waste of time. Gold to me made more sense to short because it was at least into major points. No, it's all good if you're late. This made sense to me up here to short. So again, this is the thing I think people realize, and I'll say this over again. You're only as good as your last trade. So the people that follow me and they say, oh, you're in a cult, you follow Dan, whatever. No. They realize, like, my probabilities of what I'm discussing and based on evidence is usually right. Am I always right? No. Am I early? Yep. Potentially. Again, if you think you're going to nail every trade perfectly, I'm just telling you right now, put the pipe down, turn in your laptop, Hunter, you're on crack to think that you're going to be able to nail this all the time. Where do I see the SPX in 1 to 2 months from now? Yeah, drinking the Kool-Aid. Let me pull up the SPX. Again, remember, I can do this easy on them. This is the SPY. I would not be surprised if you're gonna have one big red month at some point. It's probably going to be February or March. More looking like February. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't come back down to this 37, upper 37s, maybe 36s. Remember, JP Morgan's got a collar on 4,300 or 4030. I can't remember what it is, to 3,600. I don't know if we'll break below it because there will be probably again, because you have to remember, like, let me show you guys. This was different, right? You have like a bubble burst, right? This was like the housing bubble. I don't know if I see the bubble other than what right now, like just unemployment having to rise. And we've said this many times. This could turn out to be like the 70s and 80s. We just get big trading ranges and lots of volatility. I mean, I think at some point the monthly trend line is in play down around the threes. But here's the problem. This is the ultimately hardest part, is to know exactly for sure. Liquidity in drives the market insanely higher. Liquidity out could do what? Pull the market back. So you're going to have to, and this is the thing about like where things will be. This is why you have to pay attention to the market. Right? You're going to have to pay attention to the market. I mean, because what's the sentiment going to be in a month or two? We don't know. Right? Are we going to be in this bottoming, blow off, everybody's bearish sentiment and ready to rally again? I don't know. I mean, I personally think you're going to have like a mix of tech bubble, inflation bubble, 70s, and 70s and 2000 mix. It's a remix, right? Tech is going to lag. Commodities are going to hold up better. Money's going to rotate because it's not destroyed. It's going to buy more commodities on the dips. Every tech pop is to be shorted. Commodity pops, be careful shorting them. I'd be more looking for dips to buy. Other than that, I'm trying not to trying to just think about the repeating patterns of this. Like, think about, if you're familiar in the 2000s, I'll end it here. The S&P 500 consisted of like almost 40% commodity-related industrial stocks. At the lows, or at the highs in this bubble, I think commodities consisted of only 5% of the S&P 500. That money is going to rotate. Remember, it just doesn't go to zero. It's not destroyed. It just rotates. You know, someone's zero-sum game. If I'm winning, you're losing. Market maker's winning, you're losing, right? Kind of thing. So that's kind of how I look at commodities. And that's where when Scott's like, oh, is oil cheap at 70s? I would tend to agree with you, but I don't know if the market gets into this VIX spike, adios, nothing safe mode, or Russia does something. You don't know. So again, I wouldn't short oil. I'd more just kind of wait for it. So, heard Powell speaking again on Tuesday. Maybe he'll be more firm in his hawkish stance. I mean, I think, is he talking Tuesday? I mean, these guys it used to be so much easier when these guys didn't have an opinion. They wouldn't talk every day and go on CNBC or 60 Minutes and always try to like feel like they got to like explain themselves. It's tough to know. It's really tough to know. And I'm telling you right now, like, if you don't understand why the gold trade worked out, or you haven't been following that long, I get it. This all seems like luck. I'm just telling you, I'll end it this. Like, you're going to be right, nail it a third of the time. The other third of the time, you're going to be early. There's going to be a third time where it doesn't go anywhere. And then there's going to be a 10%, you know, say 30, 10% where you're just dead wrong if you're following what we do. Most people realize, like, I haven't been dead wrong on any of this, actually. I've been pretty spot on with approximately, especially within the market, the ups and the downs over the last, I mean, literally, go watch the November videos, the 2021, about Teslas, that's the top, how the market's topping out, IWM didn't confirm, all this crap. Talked about the bottom here, the rally up, said watch out because you had a shoulder line, whatever. Fibs, again, I delete the fibs as we change them as we get further into the trend, but again, probability based, evidence changed. Like, this is the thing, it's so hard, is like when someone asks you a question about what do you think is going to happen in 1 to 2 months, well, what's the evidence going to look like then too? We don't know, right? Like, that's where it's really, really, really hard to pre-plan a trade. And that's where I say, like, the more you're up, the more profits you take, right? Like, you don't know for sure. And so if you just hold out forever, it's guaranteed a bear market is a trader's market. There's going to be violent rips up and there's going to be violent rips down. And along the way, you'll just find lower lows, lower highs, or you find a base and a rebottom, retest. Maybe it is 348 is the low. in the market and we retest and it holds. I don't know. Got to be careful. From the sentiment website, there is a huge difference between dumb money and smart money. Ted Daly is now saying it's too early to declare victory. I don't know who Ted Daly is, and I don't care. Like, dumb money, smart money, just feel about the sentiment. There's a lot of smart money, big money, that's stupid. Yes, that's the problem. The lowest unemployment rate since 1969. The feds cannot pivot with an unemployment rate at lows for the last 40 years, right? Oh, Fed Daily. Oh. Yeah, I've always looked at those, and I'm like, there's a lot of big dumb money too, right? Like, I hope people realize that there's a lot of big dumb money out there. Who do you think's buying Apple up here? Only retail, right? Like, you look at Apple. Oh, it's got to be only retail. Well, it's a multi-trillion-dollar company. I think people are like putting hundreds of millions of dollars in, maybe not hundreds, but buying $1 million, $10 million, $20 million of Apple. Going, well, they said they would have sold more phones if China had been open, but they're not going to give guidance, and it'll be okay. They always do well. I mean, does that sound like a smart plan? It's not you and me buying a few shares of Apple that's going to move it. There's lots of big dumb money. I promise you that. Think about the average financial advisor and institution. They will tell you the same thing. We don't know where the market's going to go. We don't know where the market's going to go. Like, what kind of answer is that? Hold on, I have to putt real quick. What did you say? Oh, I'm trying to give you a call and get information from your financial advisor. And they're like, hold on, I'm teeing off. These guys don't know what is going on. So you have to think that they advise people just as dumb as them, literally. You can't time the market. Okay. All right. You kind of can, but you just can't expect to be right all the time. Oh, because you're wrong 1 out of 10 times, you can't time it. Okay. Good luck. All right. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for the love, support. Be safe out there. Again, I don't have an infinity to short commodities other than gold. And again, if you have gold, I think you can hold dust and keep options on GLD. I personally would not short materials. I mean, short solar, please. I think financials are about to get toast. I think tech is the trash that went up last and is absolutely going to get smoked at some point. Oil and gas dropping is ominous, though. Watch the dollar. It's been rising, basing, going higher off the lows. TLT, if yields go higher, market ain't going to like that. That's for sure. They were just promised a pivot, right? Again, be careful shorting certain commodity names. To me, I just don't think they know if they have a ton of downside. I'd rather short. I mean, you pick the tech name, throw the dart. Meta, Google, right? Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Nvidia, any mega cap tech, shoot it. Easy. So be safe out there. I got some SPY puts that I bought for today. One is up in the 416 area to 415 daily, out of the monies at 415, and I'm going to be heading out here shortly, so I'm going to close those out for a solid gain. Pennies into dollars, y'all. And again, that doesn't happen all the time. I don't day trade a lot, but this is stuff we talk about in the Discord room. Please take 20 minutes a day to think about trading, what you've learned, what you're learning, how to be better. If you don't, I'm guarantee you're no different. Goals without a plan are just wishes and dreams. Keep that in mind. All right, talk to y'all later.